Good morning.
Good morning.
So this week has been a week of what I'm calling interconnectedness. There were many opportunities where I had an opportunity to, many opportunities to have an opportunity. So I had many occasions this week where I connected with people on a deep, deep level, and probably 5 or 6 different times, and then it even got even deeper last night. So it started talking to a friend early this week about her grieving her mother whose birthday was last weekend, and thinking about Mother's Day coming, so we talked about that some. And then I was talking to my husband about my mother's car is still in our garage, and she passed away 2.5 years ago. And I just haven't been able to bring myself to change over the title so I can drive her car. There's nothing wrong with the car. It's been sitting in the garage all this time. But somehow this opportunity to go someplace and have to say my mother is deceased just has been daunting. But it's not getting any better in 2.5 years, so I guess I will be in the motor vehicles department crying in front of somebody at some point. So, but that's life, And then later on there is an opportunity to connect with someone as spiritual leader and to sit and have deep conversation and to talk about our lives and the things that we go through. Last night I watched a documentary. It's called 9/11, The Falling Man. And it was about a picture that was taken of one of the people who jumped out of the window on the morning of 9/11. And the picture was captured as he is plunging down through those many, many, many stories. And it was about the controversy of that newspaper publishing that picture and the photographer trying to find out who that person was, and then ending at the conclusion, here I go again, ending at the conclusion, but at the conclusion, the person who's probably a loved one of that man who jumped out of the window and whose picture was taken, saying that it's probably not about who that person was, but about who we are when we view something that's horrific, or when we view an act of violence, or we see something that's frightening, or that really kind of gets us where we live. And so, as I was watching that documentary and thinking about 9/11, I thought about our connectedness as humans and as humanity. And I thought about the people who perpetrated that terrorist attack and our connectedness to them, whether we want to embrace that concept or not. Because it's easy to embrace our connectedness when it's somebody we like. It's so much harder to embrace our connectedness to people that we're angry with or we think we have nothing in common with. So it's just been a mixed bag of interconnectedness this week. There's a he's a Franciscan priest, Richard Rohr, and he's the founder of the Center for Action and Contemplation. And he has some daily meditations. And this one is from April 30, which I just happened to read after my meditation time this morning. And part of it says, "Love must flow both towards us and out of us. or we do not experience or enjoy its full effects. The law of flow is simple, and Jesus states it in many different formulations, such as, "Happy are the merciful, they shall have mercy shown to them." Further down it says, whenever we refuse mutuality toward anything, whenever we won't allow our deep interconnectedness to guide us, whenever we're not attuned to both receiving and giving, we're not attuned to both receiving and giving. You could say that the Holy Spirit is existentially, but not essentially, absent from our lives. And so we've talked about our oneness and how we can't be disconnected from something that we are. And so all of this, these experiences this week, just kind of were the same thing for me. They spoke to our humanity and our divinity. It also spoke to, our mothering and Mother's Day, because I think our mothers are the first human that we're connected with. It's a primal relationship. And I believe that's why when we lose our mothers, we feel so bereft and the grief is so hard, because the person that we first had our connectedness with is now gone from the physical plane. That's how we learn connectedness. That's where we get connection from. There's somebody in my life whose mother is a drug addict, and she struggled just about all of her life, and I still think from time to time she does, because her mother was never able to just be a mother because of her addiction. Because she just wanted her to be something other than what she was capable of being. And so she struggled with who she was and what she was here for, and really just trudged through life and has struggled through life searching for meaning and for love. So again, here we are at that place of having to remember who we are and what that ultimate connection is. Maybe it's the great connection. It is our interconnection with each other on this human plane, but it's also spirit. The God that we are, that we're so fused with, we can never be separated from it, even if we don't believe it, even if we don't want it, even if we don't feel it, even if we think it's not showing up like we want it to, often like the love we have for each other, that it's still there. And it's still the foundation. And at the same time, it moves in us and through us. And I think that's the core. The reason we're all here is to share that connection, to embrace the connection, to discover the connection when it eludes us, when we don't want to see it, when we think it's not there, or that it can't possibly exist because we probably don't want it to. But I've had all this emotion just swirling around this concept of connection and feeling grief, happiness, because I do have such wonderful friends and I do have opportunities to share with people on a level that a lot of people don't or are afraid to. I get to remember some of the challenges I've had in the relationship with my own mother, and then also a lot of the joy that we share together. So we have these opportunities to step into the real stuff of life. The real stuff of life, our connection. And so this motherly love, I think we all give to each other whenever we step out in kindness. Whenever we open our hearts. And it doesn't matter that we haven't given birth to anyone, because I haven't. But I still feel this overwhelming love throughout my days. And it's just the most fantastic thing to wrap myself around. And to the an opportunity to dance. So what do we do with this connectedness? I think we just plunge forward into it. No matter what it looks like at the time, whether it is what we would call messy and emotional, whether it is a moment of grief or sadness for somebody, whether it's love or fear of love, it's all part of who we are and what we're experiencing at that time. And if we step out just a little bit to share it with somebody, I think it helps us expand our hearts. And I think it helps us expand life for us. I think it makes life more worth living. I get why some people were upset about that photograph of that man falling down from the Twin Towers. Because it's horrifying to think that you have to make the decision, do I want to burn alive in this building, or am I going to jump to my death? And we don't want to see it. We don't want to know it. We don't want to feel it. We don't want to contemplate it. But that's how life showed up that day. In the documentary, they showed people in their horror who were standing around those Twin Towers at that time, watching hundreds of people do that, make that decision to jump and choose how life ended. Life is just rich. And we get to call it rich, whether it shows up the way we want it to or not. And I think that's a choice. We always have the choice to reach out or not. We have the choice to love or not. We have the choice to connect or not. But when we do, life gets better. And sometimes it's as simple as smiling at someone. It's as simple as taking somebody's hand. It's as simple as walking by and touching somebody's arm. It's as simple as making eye contact. So many people just want to be seen. So many people go through their day not being seen. They're just another employee, another number, somebody else on the road. Somebody else you casually say, "How you doing?" but you don't listen to the answer. You know, we ask, but do we truly want to know? And when we hear, are you willing to stand with them as they give the answer? Especially when it's not, "Oh, I'm fine." Interconnectedness. It's the stuff of life. Richard Rohr says that it's when we ignore that mutuality, the interconnectedness with spirit, he said that's when the opportunity for sin happens. Interesting way to put that. Very interesting way to put it. And I'll probably have to meditate on it for a while and think about that. Because he said it's not always just the act itself, but it's the atmosphere, the feeling of separateness, feeling the disconnection, where the opportunity for sin comes up, or disconnection from the divine, from who we really are. That when we hurt somebody else, it's because we're not seeing the connection. When we hurl words, harsh words, it's because we're not seeing the connection. And maybe when we're not connected with our own divinity, that's when we do something that's other than loving to ourselves. Because sometimes we're even disconnected to ourselves and who we truly are and how important we are. So on this Mother's Day, I don't think it matters if you're a mother. I think it just matters that we love today and every day. That life-giving connection is something we extend to everyone that we meet. And try to extend to even those that we don't know, or that we don't respect, or that we don't like. Because again, we're connected whether we want to see it or not. And it expands our hearts and our minds and our consciousness when we just go a little further past where we feel safe with our usual connections, with the easy connections. So I wish for you deep, deep connection. To step out further past where your hearts are safe. Because I believe there's so much more to feel and to receive and to give when we stretch ourselves and we stretch our hearts and we stretch those connections. Because once they're stretched, it never goes back to its original size. And you are forever expanded. And that's what we're all called to do as the Christ, as our divine selves, to expand into our divinity. Let's take this in a meditation.